What's good, y'all? It's your boy Sean P. the Blunt Guy. Hey! And we are back with another Berserk chapter. Today we will be reading Berserk chapter 9. Depending on how you read, the way I read it on the app I use, this would be the 9th chapter chronologically. But if you read by the books, we are starting a new arc. We are starting the Golden Age, and we will be on chapter 1. But before I get into that, make sure you guys hit that like button and also subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. Follow me on Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Also join the Discord. But yeah, so we're on a new arc. We're on a new arc, right? The Golden Age. I've heard a lot of good things about this arc, that this is the best arc of the series. So we are going to get into it. So let's get into it. All right. So I'm looking at this cover page, and it's like a tree with a bunch of dead bodies hanging. And you see a bunch of crows on the top of the branches. It says the Golden Age chapter 1. We see much closer to these corpses, and they're pretty much already decomposed, look like skeletons. And then we see a group of what looks to be like some soldiers riding on horseback past this tree, and one of the guys say, "Hey, look." And the next you see a baby unattached to an umbilical cord from one of those bodies. Oh man, I'm thinking this is guts right here. This is going to be a guts backstory. That's what it's looking like. I'm thinking that dead baby might be guts. We get a double page spread, and we see the tree, all the corpses hanging off the tree. This group of soldiers riding past, and you see the baby under one of the corpses as the soldier looks down on it. So one of the soldiers, he looks to be like the leader. He says, "Whoa, pretty grisly." Somebody says, "Shishu, wait." So it was like the leader of this group of soldiers telling one of the young girls who was on the wagon to wait, because she like jumps off, and I guess she's rushing towards the baby. She picks the baby up and said, "Oh." And then one of the soldiers says, "Poor girl. She's been acting funny since her miscarriage 3 days ago." That would have been your kid, right, Gambino? And the leader says, "How the hell should I know?" I'm assuming he's the leader. I don't know if he's the leader. I'm just, because he's kind of like in the front leading soldiers, and they kind of seem like they be listening to him when he tells them to stop or whatever. The leader says, "Hey, Shishu." And Shishu's like, "Hush, hush." And then one of the other soldiers says, "How long you going to stay there like that?" And the leader grabs her by the arm and says, "Snap out of it. That kid's already dead." And she like drops the baby in like the puddle of water and said, "Ah." Then the baby kind of screams out and starts crying. And he still has Shishu by the arm. One of the soldiers says, "Huh? Hey, that kid's alive." And then someone's talking. It says, "Under the dead body of its mother, the baby made its birthing cries, cradled in a mire of blood and afterbirth." Also, he didn't. It wasn't a puddle of water. That was a puddle of blood he fell in, and like some afterbirth as well. So the girl rushes over to the baby, picks it back up, and is holding it in her arms. The leader looks and says, "Hey, Shishu." And then the girl runs back into the back of the wagon, and she gets in, and she's pretty much like snuggled up with this child that I presume to be Guts. So yes, the girl is holding this child, and the leader, he looks concerned a little bit. And one of the soldiers says, "You going to allow that, Gambino?" And Gambino says, "Hell if I care. She can do what she wants." That's his name, Gambino. And then the other soldier says, "I don't know about that." And another one says, "Yeah." And Gambino says, "What is it?" The soldier has like his helmet tipped up, and he says, It's a bad omen, isn't it? Picking up a kid at a place like this. And Gambino says, "Ha! You guys scared?" Soldier says, "Why? No. You've got to be kidding," says another soldier. And Gambino says, "Sheesh." And we see Shishu with what I assume to be a young baby Guts. That might be why they call him Guts, because he fell out of the guts of a like dead pregnant woman. I don't know. And someone says, "It'll die anyway if we just leave him alone. Until then, let it be Shishu's little toy to console her." That might have been Gambino talking. And then Gambino says, "Come on, let's get out of here and stop jabbering around this crap." And you see all the group of soldiers on their horses galloping away. And Gambino looks back at the tree and he thinks, a bad omen, isn't it? So we see like this darkness, and you see like a pair of eyes looking through this darkness. And in the darkness, you see in like a very sliver of light, you see like what it looks to be like a battle going on. I'm not too sure. And then the eyes still look on in this darkness. And then you see some ladies. I'm assuming Shishu got pregnant sometime like around this time. Some lady is like caring to her and she says, "Hold on, Shishu." And one of the other ladies with like a bowl of water or blood possibly, I don't know, is like walking past, and then you see the young boy standing there watching on. And the lady says, "Guts, get out of here. She's got the plague. If you get infected, it'll be the end of you too." Okay, so that child is Guts. Kind of, I figured, right? I kind of figured. But Shishu has a plague, and Guts, that's probably the only person Guts ever cared about Guts. So Shishu, she's not pregnant. She has a plague. She's sick. And then she looks out, ... Guts! And Guts is just watching on. The lady tending to Shishu says, "Where's Gambino? He won't come. He's in the middle of a siege." Then they say, "Shameful. You think a man would be with his woman in her dying moments. Okay, let's stuff something between her teeth." And then Guts goes in between these two women. And the one woman says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And Shishu reaches out and says, "Guts." And Guts is like sweating. Shishu says, "Guts." And Guts grabs her hand. And the old lady says, "Guts." It like starts zooming out, and you see the two lady and Guts consoling Shishu. And then it kind of like zooms out. The word just like, you just see a little bit of light. And now I guess we cut to the siege that's going on. We see all these soldiers on horseback, and like a explosion blowing away one of the horses. And we cut to 3 years later, and there's still a siege going on. I'm not sure if this is the same siege or if this is a different siege, but it's still a battle going on. We see all these soldiers headed towards like this castle, and they got cannons and just a lot of soldiers. And so they're charging at another group of soldiers who have like crossbows and like those little spike fences. I don't really know what you call those, but I guess those are to prevent oncoming cavalry. And then we see Gambino and his men with the crossbow. So they're the ones, I guess, preventing the siege. What it looks like. It's what it looks like. At least they're defending. It looks like they're defending. You see catapults and everything in the background. We see Guts next to Gambino, and he has like this spear. And Gambino says, "Yo, Guts, a spear. Give me a spear." We see Guts handing this spear over, and Gambino says, "Come on, don't just sit there." Gambino uses that spear to impale one of the soldiers on horseback, and Guts looks on as this man dies. Bruh, Guts experienced war at a young age. He was born pretty much through death. He must even born through war, and he's experienced war, experienced death. God dang, Guts at a very young age. Since being born, he experienced death. That's wild. So Guts has like this dead corpse of the guy who Gambino just killed laying on him. And he screams out, ah, ah. And then I guess Gambino smacks him in the face with like the blunt part of the spear. And he says, don't just stand there. You trying to get me killed? And he says, God damn it. Who the hell do you think feeds you? Gambino says, if I die, you'll end up a corpse on the side of the road. Hey, they're coming. Attack. So yeah, I guess Gambino, they're still sieging this castle. You know, it's just the castle is also, you know, attacking as well. And we see Guts looking in pain back at Gambino, and Gambino says, what are you looking at? You got a problem? I'll throw you out right now. Right in the battlefield. And Guts is like behind Gambino, and he says, that bitch Shishu sure picked up a pesky little bastard. And then Guts like picks out a tooth that got loose. So I guess some time passed, and we see Gambino's soldiers back at like a camp. You know, I guess they're away from the middle of the battle and they're back at a camp. And we see two guys training, which is Guts and Gambino. And Gambino says, let's go. Come on. Is that all you got? Guts swings. Gambino like knees the hell out of him in the stomach. And Gambino says, come on. We're not dancing here. Guts is on the floor cringing his stomach. And then one of the soldiers says, Gambino, you're going too far. You can't expect to teach sword fighting to a 6-year-old kid. And Gambino says he can't expect to keep on eating free meals forever. We're mercenaries. After all, mercenaries. He's got to earn his own bread around here. And the guy says, that's fine. But Guts, why don't you use a sword more your size? And Guts says, no. And the guy says, oh, he's a pig-headed little guy. And Gambino says, we don't keep children weapons around here. And Guts is like struggling to hold his sword up. And Guts charges in for an attack. And Gambino says, no good, no good. One of the guys say, use your hips more, your hips. And then Gambino says, not enough projection. And other soldiers like, go, go, go get him, kid. Don't hold back. And Gambino says, there. And he like slashes Guts on the cheek. And you see Guts looks on in anger. Guts charge in Gambino, and he goes in for like a thrust. And he actually succeeds at cutting Gambino in the face. And Gambino looks in he looks in disgust. And then he grabs Guts by the head, and he says, you runt. And then he like smacks Guts in the face. Or no, he cuts him in the nose. And then they say, Gambino. And the other soldiers go to rush off to console Guts. And they say, hey, you're going too far. He's just a kid. Gambino is like clutching at his face. And he says, careful with him. Careful. It's an awful cut. All the way to the bone. And one of the soldiers, the one with the long hair, he says, that was a bit childish, wasn't it, Gambino, sir? And Gambino says, yeah, I guess I pushed him a little too hard. Then he kind of looks. a little devilish look. And then I'm assuming some time moves forward. And it's like nighttime. And you see a ... and it says, hot. And we see Guts and it says, so hot. My face feels like it's on fire. My nose clogged with blood. My head so heavy. I can't breathe. And then somebody's talking outside of whatever tent he's in. And says, how long does he plan to keep this kid anyway? And Guts is like looking on like the outside listening. And they say, did you hear where the kid came from? Yeah, I heard he was born from a corpse. And then they say, for people in our line of work who put our lives at risk, he's a bad omen. He'll bring us bad luck. And then they say, I bet it's his fault that Shishu died of the plague. And then Guts is like turned over, like looking like his eyes are real wide. Guts looks over at a sword. He reaches for that sword and grabs it by the handle, and then you see him cuddling with it as he sleeps. Man, it kind of shows his character, right? Like maybe the sword is like his only thing to like that's all he trusts is his sword. He's with this group of soldiers, and a lot of them don't even really like him. They look at him as a bad omen. Gambino, like I think Gambino probably somewhat cares for Guts in his own way. The fact that he's training him means a lot, right? But he's very, very, very cruel and very hard on him. He's very hard on Guts, which I kind of get, seeing that their line of work is a very hard life. You can't be soft on each other just because he's a kid, because the kid could die at any moment. If you die, the kid would die anyway. And you got to teach this kid to survive, and eventually maybe help earn his keep. So I get being a bit hard on him. I don't think he has to be as hard as he is on him because he still is a kid. But I get being hard on him. And Guts really doesn't have anybody. The only person that he had and that probably cared for him was Shisu, right? But she died from a plague while he was still young. She was like the only mother he had. His real mother obviously was dead when he was born. So, it makes sense. But this is the closest thing he has to a family, and even then, a lot of them don't even like him. They look at him as a bad omen. So some time seems to pass forward, and we see what looks to be a young Guts, and he's swinging this sword, counting. He says 98, 99, 100. And then he takes a break. He has his sword in the ground, and he's taking a break as he practiced. Guts thinks to himself and says, when I'm swinging this sword, I don't have to think about anything. And he like looks at his hands, and they're bruised from the constant training. Guts looks over, and Gambino approaches. He says, you sure are taking a long time to draw water. And he says, Gambino. Gambino says, here. And he throws like a seashell at Guts, and Guts catches it. Gambino says, it's medicine. Rub it on your wounds. Guts says, eh? See, so it does show that Gambino does care about Guts in his own way. From the time he met Guts, he allowed Shishu to pretty much take him in despite the warnings of Guts being like a bad omen. He could have easily said, no, you don't bring that child with us. We don't need another mouth to feed. Do not bring that child. But he allowed her to take in this child, and then he uses the child to help in battle, to bring weapons and stuff. And he even trains Guts, the child Guts. And he's hard on him, but he still takes care of Guts. So it's obvious that he, to a degree, as hard as he is on Guts, he does care about him. Now we actually see him giving Guts some medicine for his wounds, after realizing that Guts is over here training, even though he's supposed to be fetching water. And Gambino is walking away, and he looks over and says, bah. Guts says, Gambino. Gambino looks back, and he says, thank you. And Gambino says, hurry up and get the food ready. And we see Guts looking around, sitting on the root of the tree, kicking his leg up. And then he gets some of that medicine, puts it on his nose, and say, ow. So I guess this was pretty recent from when he got his nose cut, where he puts the medicine on his nose, and he says, perhaps it was for no other reason than to soothe his guilty conscience. I guess they talking about Gambino. Like maybe that's why he gave him the medicine. And it says 3 years later, we see the mercenaries back at another siege. And this town is like on fire. You see all this smoke pretty much coming from the walls of the town. Bunch of bunch of the soldiers with ladders, the mercenaries with ladders, sieging this town. See some cannon fire. The soldiers in the towers are, they're pretty much shooting back, defending their town from the siege. So you see the doors of this town, just like of the walls, like blow up. And then Gambino says, "Phew, all right, guys, let's go to work." We see Guts in his own little armor, holding his sword. Someone says, "First one there takes all. Let's make some money." One of the soldiers says, "Don't overexert yourself, kid. Just do what's needed, because if you die, you lose everything." And then Guts is clutching at his head. And Gambino says, "Hey, Guts, we got a double page spread." And Gambino says, "It's your first battle. Work hard." And then the soldiers charge. And you see Gambino says, "Charge!" And all the soldiers, including Guts, is charging forward. Hey, Guts seemed pretty calm for this to be his first battle. He is pretty calm about this whole thing. The mercenaries and the soldiers of this town are all fighting. And you hear us panting, pant, 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 pant. So just a lot of fights going on. And now you see all these guys fighting around, and right in the middle, right in the center, you see Guts holding his own against one of the soldiers. He's fighting a soldier. He's in the middle of he's having his own duel, his first duel. I think Guts might almost die, what I think. He might almost die, but he might hold his own a little bit. And he's at it. He's going toe to toe with this guy. And the guy's like way heavily armored than Guts himself. It looked like Guts might get him, but the guy's like striking down. So Guts goes in for a vertical swing. The guy blocks it and then goes in for like a thrust. He catches Guts right on the helmet, and Guts' helmet flies off. Guts falls to the ground, but as he's falling, he manages to stick his sword in between the man's helmet. Guts is on the ground, but his sword is still in the man's helmet, and then you see blood slide down Guts' sword. So Guts got his first kill. His first confirmed kill, at least. I don't know if Guts has any kills before this. I doubt it. But he got his first confirmed kill. And the man falls to the ground next to Guts. As Guts gets up, he gets hit in the back of the head with like a mace. Like one of them like mason chains. Like the maces with the ball attached to the chain, attached to the handle. He gets hit in the back of his head with one of them. Or not his head, but the back of his neck. We see this big hulking guy standing over Guts. Like this guy's holding the shield and the two balls and chains, and he goes in for a swing, and Guts looks like he looks like he's shit out of luck right now. And then we see Gambino thrust his sword in the back of this man's neck, and you see Guts look on in shock. Like, I guess he can't believe that Gambino is actually taking the time to save him. But yeah, this shows that Gambino cares enough for Guts to save his life to not want him to die. Hey, and you could probably say, yeah, it's one of Gambino's men, so why would he not save one of his men? Guts is out there actually fighting. So the fact he's actually out there fighting, I'm pretty sure Gambino sees him as an asset now. Like, he sees him as an asset, as though, like, we know before Gambino's like, hey, man, you got to earn your keep. Now we see Guts actually earning his keep. So seems like he actually cared for Guts. And I don't even think it's just that, though. I think he always had somewhat of a care for Guts. The fact that the woman that he was dealing with cared for him as well. And, she had a miscarriage that could have been his child. And she took him in. So just off of that, he probably always seen Guts as a son that he had to be hard on. And now Guts is actually out there fighting alongside him as well. So Guts is earning his keep. So that even brings him more value. Guts says, Gambino, And Gambino's walking, and he walks away, and Gambino says, "Watch your back. This isn't sword practice. After you've killed one, move on. Come on, hurry up. Work, work." Guts picks his helmet back on and put it on his head. And you see all these men, these mercenaries going inside these castle walls. All right, so we're back at the mercenary camp. And you see the castle in the background. And all these men are like lined up. You see like these two tables in front of these tents. And all these men are like lined up. Like these two long lines at these tables. And then you see like a guy with glasses, look like he might be like some type of accountant or like a bookkeeper. And you see all these little bags of what I presume to be money. It's like their payments. You know, these guys are pretty much getting their payments. And the old guy says, "Next." And you see Guts in line. Guts running through the camp and he says, "Gambino." Gambino says, "What do you want?" And he reaches into his little pouch. And he says, "Here." And Gambino grabs it and opens up the bag and says, Gambino reaches into the bag and throws like a coin at him and says, "Here you go. Well, keep it up." Gus says, I will." And Gambino got like this smile. like, "Hey man, this kid is, hey, he give me my money. I've been taking care of him, so he's giving me money." Guts looks and Gambino says, "Ha!" And Guts just stands there as Gambino goes to one of the women in the camp, go get his little rocks off, I'm assuming. And Guts is just standing there. So Guts is looking at this coin that he got, and he's happy. He's excited. He excited about the money that he made, the little coin that he made that Gambino gave him. And he's just walking through this camp. You see guys like gambling. You see some women around. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some alcohol too. As you see like Guts walk off, you see like a figure of this like a big guy, like watching Guts walk away. Somebody said, "Gambino." Gambino turns around and says, "What? Something I could do for you, Donovan?" So you see like this big, he looks like a black dude. Big black dude with one eye. His other eye looked like it's shut. And he's big dude. I'm not too confident what's about to happen. I'm not too confident. So we see Guts in his tent, laying down. He's like holding himself, like he's cold or something. He says, "Whenever it gets to be this time, I can't stop shaking." Guts is shaking, and then you see a shadowy figure like in front of what I presume to be Guts' tent. And then his tent like opens up and you see like the light coming through, and Guts says, "Who's there?" The figure walks through the tent and Guts says, "Donovan?" You see Donovan's face, creepy face. And he like is standing over Guts. Oh man, I'm not liking this. I'm not liking this. I'm not liking where this is going. I'm really not. I'm not liking where this is going. And Guts looks in shock, and then you see Donovan reach out. And then Guts goes for his sword, and Donovan charges in. And then all you see is things go black with like light shining. So then we see Donovan. He has Guts pinned down. He has his knee over like Guts' back and both his arms. And it says, "The Golden Age, Chapter 1, End." I'm not liking where this is going, man. I'm not liking where the end of this chapter is going. But, man, I did like this chapter. Aside from where the end, which I'm not saying I don't like it, but I just don't like where it's going. I don't like where it's going. But I did like this chapter. We kind of see a little backstory of Guts. He was born from a dead woman who was hanging from a tree. We see a group of mercenaries led by the leader Gambino. We see them going past, and they notice this baby on the floor laying in a pool of blood and afterbirth. And the woman in the back of one of the carts named Shishu, she pretty much runs to the baby, picks it up, and pretty much adopts the baby, which we learn is Guts. So Guts is pretty much raised by this woman for a few years. But then she ends up dying from a plague. She dies from the plague. I'm guessing it's the Black Plague from, back in the day. If this, story kind of follows real history. And she dies, and that pretty much leaves Guts to himself. And he's raised by Gambino. Very harshly, but Gambino still pretty much takes care of him, trains him, and eventually has Guts part of the mercenary, running into these battles. At the end of the battle, when they finally succeeded at taking this town, this walled city or town or whatever, Guts gets paid, and he ended up giving his pay to Gambino, and Gambino throws a coin back at him. And we see someone has their eye on Guts. Big black dude named Bubba. Not really. His name's Donovan. And at the end of the chapter, we see Donovan go into Guts' tent. And presumably, he's going to pretty much take him, in the most friendly, kid-friendly way to say it. Take him, do some, I don't want to say the word. It rhymes with grape, but it's what it's looking like it's about to be. It's what it's looking like it's about to be. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the chapter. But yeah, y'all, make sure y'all hit that like button. Also subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. Follow me on Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and also join the Discord. All of these will be linked in the description box below. But anyway, y'all, it's your boy Sean P, the Blunt God, and I'm out of here. Peace.